Well, look, let's look at the facts, because almost 23,000 asylum seekers arrived by plane and claimed asylum in 2023 under this government, the third highest number of arrivals in our history. The maritime regime under the Rudd-Gillard years saw more than 1,200 people killed at sea and brought in more than 50,000 illegal arrivals. Now, Albo too is under pressure on our border security. Our next question for the jury: are our borders weaker under Labor? Joining me now is late debate host James McPherson and Graham Richardson, former Hawke and Keating Labor Government Minister. Hello to both of you. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us on the panel. Richo, look, Labor's track record speaks for itself here. Is a party weak on borders? Do you think? No.
I think it's probably not our finest area of policy decision-making over the course of time. But I think these days both sides have the same policy, so it doesn't really matter in that who's in government, the same policies will be maintained.
OK, so you don't think that this is just a Labor-based problem?
No, this is an Australia-based problem, and our problem is we're too good.
But under the coalition, what about Operation Sovereign Borders? It was successful under the coalition government.
Yeah, but we don't have the need for that anymore.
Why not?
Because you haven't got armadas of boats trying to land upon our coast.
OK.
You've got the odd boat will sneak through now every few months, but you don't have what you used to have, so there's no need for the same policies.
All right, well, James, what do you think here? I mean, from the immigration detainee saga, we've had some boats arrive recently. Do you think that the Labor government is weak?
Absolutely. I mean, past performance is a good predictor of the future. So let's remind ourselves, in 2007, under the last Labor government, we had almost 1,000 boats, 50,000 illegals arrived, 1,200, as you said, died at sea. And that only stopped when Labor were removed from office and the Abbott government instituted sovereign borders. Now, you would think that those in Labor would have had a come-to-Jesus moment and recognised we can never allow that to happen again. But 8 years later, in 2015, Albanese said on Insiders, I would never turn back boats. I couldn't do that to women and children. Andrew Giles, the current immigration minister, said detention should be a last resort for asylum seekers. So are we really surprised now that Albo's the Prime Minister, Giles is Immigration Minister, and they are in office? We've had 13 boats arrive since May 2022, the last one of which was 50 people made it to the West Australian coast undetected, and when Anthony Albanese was asked about it, he said, oh, sorry, I was in the car, I wasn't aware. Now, either he is incredibly incompetent or he is a massive liar. The public suspect both, and when it comes to border control, perception is reality. If the perception is that they are weak, then people smugglers are empowered to sell a product, and that's the problem we've got.
If people suspected Albo in the way you suggest, why is he so far in front in the polls? Hey, why do they keep saying they like him?
Well, I think, people smugglers keep voting for him, that's for sure. I mean, they would have him as their #1 pollster.
Useless
because
remark.
They're sending boats.
Useless remark. How is it that people still like him so much? All those big numbers still like him. How is it possible?
What, so you're saying that's an endorsement of his border policies?
I'm saying it's an endorsement of Albo. And if you've got to endorse Albo, then you have to understand that as far as his policies are concerned, there's no revolt here. You're not seeing people walking up and down the street with placards saying get rid of Albo because of this or because of that. They're just not saying it.
Well, I don't think you can say that the polls reflect good border policy. The two are not necessarily coherent.
Richard,
just because he's polling well doesn't mean that they're strong on border policy.
Well, it's one of the big issues.
It
is a very big issue. If it was a blatant failure on his part, it would affect his results. But the reality is his results are terrific. So it's just not a problem as far as the mob are concerned.
All right, let's go to the jury and see how they're feeling about this. Belinda, what do you think?
I think they're definitely weaker. I think we've seen the evidence speaks for itself, really. Albo has, allowed things to happen that we wouldn't be expecting. And I think when Abbott had the boats policy in place, we had security, we knew what was happening. Now we're seeing things that are unprecedented, and the public are not accepting of that.
Richo, we talk about, asylum seekers rocking up unexpectedly on our shores, and they managed to get in. And I just think it's extraordinary that a boat arrival comes in WA just last month, and Aboriginal elders discovered the boat before Border Force. One was using a drone bought from JB Hi-Fi, and they managed to find the campsite. Does that not show weak policy?
What it shows is a big place. It's a big border. It's a massive border.
But you don't think that's an oversight?
And you can't... Well, when you say oversight, I don't know how you could expect any government, and no government has been able to do it anyway, so if we're being honest about it, no one's been able to declare that our border is shut and no one can get through. It's too big an area for us ever to guarantee that. It'll never happen.
All right,
Richo's absolutely right. We have a massive coastline, but one of the things this government has done is they've cut surveillance hours by 14%.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just a mistake or a fluke. If they were serious about border control, they wouldn't be cutting surveillance hours. They would be spending the money to make sure we secure our borders. And so it's another example of Labor's failure on this issue.
I wonder if it's going to be a policy
It's an example
issue.
of being efficient. If you've not got a problem, why are you going to spend money fixing it?
Clearly we have a problem because a boat arrived.
That's true. A boat did arrive, but look, it's going to be we got to go to the jury now. It's going to be interesting to see if this is actually a big policy one that they take to the election. But look, you've both had your say. It's time to call on the jury. Jury, we need your verdict. Are our borders weaker under Labor?
Absolutely. It's not about the method of coming in. It's about what happens when they're here.
OK, time is up. What is the jury's verdict? OK, all yeses except one no. The majority believe that, in fact, our borders are weaker under Labor. But, Damien, you don't think so. Why not?
No, look, I agree with Richo. The borders, the policy is a policy, right? Whether it's Labor or Liberal, it's pretty much the same. I would not spend the money on surveillance if we didn't have the need, right? We've seen the numbers of boats have dropped in the last few years. It's a great big country of ours, and, yeah. I mean, how are we going to protect it all 24/7? Impossible.
Right, you're shaking your head in the back row.
What the essential problem is these non-citizens arriving here claiming asylum. It's the treatment when they get here. So they're detained. It's the number of appeals processes in place that delays or prevents or stops a sovereign country determining who stays here. This is where the thrust of the problem here is that we're an attractive country. We've got lots of welfare. We've got all these things. So whether they're maritime, whether they're through aircraft, it's the detention regime that we have.
Fascinating one, isn't it? Graham Richardson, James McPherson, we've got to leave it there. Thanks to both of you for joining us on the show this evening. We appreciate it.